On November 29, 1970, a father and his two young daughters walked into a remote valley above Bergen, Norway, and found a woman who appeared to have erased herself before anyone else could identify her. Her real name was gone. The labels had been removed from her clothes. The addresses she had written in hotel registers did not exist. The passports she had apparently used were never found. Even the identities attached to her journey belonged to people who had never existed. What remained were 2 suitcases, a coded notebook, a trail of false names, and a mystery that has survived for more than half a century. Who was the Isdal Woman, and why did she work so hard to disappear? The place where she was discovered was Isdalen, the Ice Valley, a steep and isolated landscape beneath Mount Ulriken. Bergen was close enough to be seen from the surrounding heights, yet the valley itself felt separated from ordinary life. Locals had given it a darker nickname, Death Valley, because of earlier accidents and tragedies in the area. The unknown woman was found among rocks, away from the usual paths. Fire had affected the scene and damaged much of what could have helped identify her, but investigators quickly understood that this was not a simple case of a traveler becoming lost in the mountains. Around her were familiar objects made unsettling by what was missing. There were rubber boots, an umbrella, jewelry, bottles, a matchbox, and the remains of a passport holder. Names, labels, and identifying marks had been cut away, rubbed off, or removed. The objects looked less like personal belongings than the outline of a life from which every signature had been carefully deleted. Bergen police opened case 134/70. The medical examination concluded that the woman had died from a combination of carbon monoxide and a strong barbiturate sedative. Evidence also indicated that she had still been breathing after the fire began. That established the medical cause of death, but it did not establish the full sequence of events. Investigators ultimately favored suicide, yet the unusual scene left room for doubt. The medical findings could not explain the false identities, the missing labels, the vanished passports, or the final 6 days of her life. Her fingerprints produced no identification. No relative came forward. Composite images were distributed through Interpol and police forces across Europe. Witnesses described an elegant, dark-haired woman, approximately 1.64 meters tall, who could have been anywhere from her late 20s to around 40. Even her apparent age seemed to change depending on who had seen her. Then, 3 days after the discovery, the investigation changed completely. Police located 2 suitcases that had been left at Bergen railway station. Inside were clothes, shoes, cosmetics, wigs, glasses, maps, timetables, foreign currencies, and a small notepad filled with letters and numbers. Once again, identifying marks had been removed. German banknotes were hidden inside the lining of one case. A partial fingerprint found on a pair of glasses connected the luggage to the unknown woman. The suitcases did not reveal her name. They revealed her method. Investigators decoded the notepad and discovered that the strange combinations were not a secret message in the usual sense. They were a compact travel record. Letters represented cities. Numbers represented dates. By comparing those entries with hotel forms and witness statements, police reconstructed a restless route through Norway and continental Europe, including repeated stays in Oslo, Bergen, Stavanger, and Trondheim. At different hotels, the woman became Geneviève Lancier, Claudia Tielt, Claudia Nielsen, Vera Jarl, Fenella Lork, Elizabeth Lienhauer, and several other variations. Her birth date changed, her occupation changed, her home address changed. She repeatedly claimed Belgian nationality, but most of the addresses she provided were false. At different times, she described herself as a traveling saleswoman, an antiquities dealer, or an ordinary tourist. The identity documents she apparently showed at reception desks were never recovered. This was not one impulsive lie told to a hotel clerk. It was a maintained system. Each name came with a different personal history. Wigs, clothing, and cosmetics may have altered the way witnesses remembered her. Hotel staff recalled that she sometimes changed rooms after checking in. Some thought she appeared alert or watchful. Several remembered that she spoke more than one language, including German and French, while her English seemed less confident. Her last confirmed hotel was the Hordeheimen in Bergen. She checked in on November 19th and stayed in room 407. Staff said she kept mostly to herself. On November 23rd, she paid in cash, checked out, and asked for a taxi. After that moment, the official trail goes silent. 6 days later, the family entered Isdalen. Those missing 6 days form one of the deepest gaps in the case. Where did she stay? Who kept her luggage? Why were the suitcases left at the railway station while she went into the hills? And did she make that final journey alone? Years later, a taxi driver claimed that another man had joined the woman during a ride toward the station. The account surfaced long after the original investigation and could not be verified. Another witness later said he had seen a woman resembling her on a hillside several days before the discovery, walking ahead of 2 men. He claimed that he mentioned the sighting to someone connected with the police, but no contemporary report has survived. These stories are intriguing, but they remain later recollections, not established evidence. The lack of certainty created space for one theory to grow larger than all the others: espionage. In 1970, Norway stood on NATO's northern frontier during the Cold War. Its coastline, naval facilities, military technology, and strategic position attracted intelligence interest from both sides of Europe's political divide. The Isdal Woman's aliases, coded travel notes, wigs, cash payments, and multilingual movements seemed to contain every ingredient of a spy story. Later reporting based on declassified material also suggested that some of her journeys overlapped with tests connected to Norway's Penguin anti-ship missile program. But an overlap on a calendar is not proof of a mission. No publicly available document has identified her as an intelligence officer. No government has claimed her. No verified handler, agency, assignment, or operational purpose has ever been established. The missile connection remains a clue interpreted through the atmosphere of the Cold War, not evidence that solves the case. There are other possibilities. She may have been involved in private trade, smuggling, financial crime, or a personal situation that required secrecy. She may have been escaping someone, protecting someone, or hiding a past that had nothing to do with intelligence work. The wigs may have been disguises, but they may also have helped her appear younger, older, or simply different. The coded notebook looked sinister until police discovered that it was essentially an itinerary. Almost every dramatic clue has at least one ordinary explanation. And yet, when all the clues are placed together, the pattern remains difficult to dismiss. She did not hide only one detail about herself. She created distance between herself and every place she entered. She used false names, false addresses, cash payments, altered clothing, and a private travel system that only she needed to understand. Whatever her occupation or purpose, secrecy was not accidental. It was a practiced habit. In February 1971, the unknown woman was buried at Mollendal Cemetery in Bergen. Police arranged a Catholic service because several of the names she had chosen were associated with Catholic saints. Officers attended in place of family. She was placed in a zinc coffin so that future investigators could examine her remains if new methods became available. Her grave carried no true name because there was still no true name to give it. For decades, the case remained suspended between official closure and public doubt. Then, modern forensic science returned to the evidence. In 2016, the investigation was re-examined. New facial reconstructions were produced, and surviving biological material was studied again. Analysis of her teeth offered the most important new clues in years. The results suggested that she was probably born around 1930, with a margin of several years, and that she spent her earliest childhood in or near southern Germany, possibly around Nuremberg. Later tooth development suggested that she moved west while growing up, perhaps toward France or the French-German border. This was not a precise home address. Isotope analysis compares chemical signatures preserved in teeth with patterns found in regional water and food. It can identify areas that are compatible with a person's childhood, but it cannot identify one town, one street, or one family. Even so, the results changed the investigation. The woman, once thought to be perhaps 30, may have been closer to 40. Her German sheep, French-influenced writing, and repeated use of Belgian identities could now be interpreted as fragments of a real Central or Western European upbringing, rather than a collection of random inventions. DNA testing also produced a genetic profile, but no publicly confirmed comparison has given her a name. Over the years, online researchers have occasionally announced supposed identifications. None has been confirmed by Norwegian authorities. Officially, the Isdal woman remains unidentified. The science narrowed the map, but it deepened the human mystery. If she was born in southern Germany around 1930, then her childhood unfolded during the rise of the Nazi regime and the Second World War. She may have crossed borders because of persecution, displacement, family choices, or ordinary migration. Such a past could help explain why an adult became skilled at changing names and countries. But that is only a possibility. The isotope results suggest where parts of her childhood may have taken place. They do not reveal what happened to her there. The greatest mystery may not be how she died. It may be how completely she disappeared from everyone else's life. A woman capable of moving across Europe, booking hotels, buying clothes, speaking several languages, and maintaining multiple identities must once have had teachers, neighbors, colleagues, friends, or relatives. Someone knew her natural voice. Someone had seen her without a wig. Someone had once called her by the name she was given at birth. Yet after her image was circulated internationally, no verified person stepped forward and ended the mystery. Perhaps those who knew her never saw the appeals. Perhaps war and migration had already separated her from her family. Perhaps the people around her knew only another alias. Or perhaps someone recognized her immediately and understood that remaining silent was safer. The surviving evidence leaves 3 locked doors. Behind the first is suicide, a woman deliberately ending her life while making certain that no one could identify her. Behind the second is murder or coercion, another person using her own secrecy against her. Behind the third is an intelligence operation that ended without any government admitting that she had ever existed. None of those doors can be opened with the evidence currently available to the public. More than 50 years later, investigators possess fragments of her geography, her movements, her handwriting, her dental history, and her genetic code. They know the hotel rooms she rented and the names she invented. They can follow pieces of her route across a map, but they still cannot reach the one fact that should have been the simplest: her name. And somewhere between southern Germany, the French borderlands, Belgium, and Norway, there may still be a family photograph containing a woman no one recognizes as the stranger from Isdalen. The final clue may not be hidden in a classified archive or buried inside another code. It may be sitting in an old album, beneath a name the world has never thought to search.